Hello everyone, welcome to the Tim Booker channel. I wish you all a pleasant listening experience. Today, I will be decoding Liar's Poker for you. This book, containing around 200,000 words, I will distill the essence of the book for you. Is Wall Street's investment game really composed of a series of lies? Let's start by answering this question. Indeed, Wall Street's investment game is rife with lies, but these lies are not malicious deceptions or concealments. To be more precise, these lies are exposed in broad daylight, and everyone knows they are lies but still choose to believe in them. What is the motivation behind this? It's all about money and wealth. Money is the temptation that leads us to irrationality, and the well-dressed, clear-headed traders on Wall Street are not just masters of numbers, they are also masters of human nature. They hold a deck of cards, carefully observe every expression of the masses, and then decide how to play their cards to strike at their vulnerabilities. The author of this book is Michael Lewis, and by a stroke of luck, he joined the Salomon brothers on Wall Street. Starting as an intern who was bullied and bought lunch for his superiors, he eventually grew into an outstanding trader. Lewis entered the company at a particularly good time, the era of the American real estate boom and rapid growth in mortgage lending. To be honest, it was precisely during this period that home mortgages became a new money-making tool on Wall Street, which later contributed to the subprime mortgage crisis in the United States. However, Salomon brothers and Lewis were lucky. They made money from this and eventually walked away unscathed. At the peak of his career, Lewis chose to leave Salomon brothers, becoming a best-selling author. Liar's Poker reveals how Wall Street and Salomon brothers made money, or in other words, how those remarkable traders discovered other people's weaknesses and used them to amass their fortunes. Now that we've covered the basic information about this book and the author, let's move on to a detailed discussion of the book's content. This book primarily focuses on three key areas. The first focus, how Wall Street traders created a cutthroat corporate culture. The second focus, why do traders aim to make all the money in the market? Is that even possible? The third focus, how to become an outstanding and profitable trader. I assume you might be most interested in the third point, right? But first, let's take a look at the first key topic. Without exception, the financial companies on Wall Street, in the United States, have a cutthroat corporate culture. What does that mean? For these Wall Street firms, a sense of mission and responsibility to society or humanity is unimportant. What matters is making money is the ultimate goal. Let's start by explaining what Salomon Brothers is all about. This financial company located on Wall Street in the United States was founded by several Jewish individuals. In the beginning, they had significant differences from traditional financial firms. Salomon Brothers targeted the bond market. However, in the early 20th century when the company was established, the bond market wasn't as substantial. People were more interested in investing in stocks, so Salomon Brothers wasn't very big until the late 1970s and early 1980s when the American bond market continued to expand. The company began earning huge profits and almost monopolized the bond market on Wall Street. Salomon Brothers had a strong talent pool that knew how to value bonds, market them to customers, and conduct trades. You might not be familiar with the bond market, but that's okay, I'll explain briefly. How is the game played in the bond market on Wall Street? How did the traders at Salomon Brothers make a fortune? For instance, let's say IBM is in need of funds. What can they do? They can raise money by issuing bonds. In other words, individuals or investment institutions can buy bonds, and upon maturity, they receive a portion of the interest. This interest is definitely higher than what you'd get in a bank. Theoretically, the better a company's or government's credit rating, the easier it is to sell bonds, right? So, what does Salomon Brothers do? They promote bonds. If IBM decides to raise $50 million, Salomon Brothers traders would find an institution, like a pension fund, and sell $50 million worth of bonds to them. This way, IBM secures its financing, raising $50 million. Of course, Salomon Brothers is not a charitable organization. If they successfully sell the bonds, they receive a commission or kickback. Now, the commission or kickback percentage isn't fixed, it's highly flexible. It's not like the stock market where fees are transparent. In the bond market, the commission you earn depends on how well you negotiate with the customer. However, this is just the first step. We shouldn't underestimate the intelligence of traders. If the price of IBM's bonds rises, the trader will approach another institution, like that pension fund, and persuade them to buy the bonds from the original purchaser. This way, they earn another commission. Do you understand? Nobody knows the real value of bonds, not even the traders themselves. But that's not important. What matters is there's always a buyer, and the money can flow. The more frequently money flows, the more commission Solomon Brothers and traders earn. In the end, there's bound to be a sucker, the bag holder. This process is much like a game of liar's poker. Everyone hides something, and the ultimate fool is the loser. So, who's the biggest fool? Simply put, it's the person who buys high and sells low. Are there really such naive people? Yes, there are, and plenty of them. Alright, now that we've got a rough understanding of how the bond market works, let's add some background knowledge. In 1979, the Federal Reserve announced that the money supply would be fixed, meaning they couldn't print money at will. This was done to curb inflation. At the same time, interest rates were deregulated, meaning the government no longer controlled the rates for borrowing and lending. The relationship between bonds and interest rates is very close, and when interest rates go up, bond prices go down. Why is that? Because higher bank interest rates mean higher interest on newly issued bonds, right? People will naturally buy bonds with higher interest rates, which means the old bonds depreciate, right? If you don't understand this, it's okay. Just remember that deregulating interest rates affects bond prices, and that's when the bond market starts to become active. Many Americans and institutions found it easier to make money in the bond market and started entering this field. Solomon Brothers' business boomed like never before. Now we've got a clear picture of what Solomon Brothers is all about. Next, let's talk about the corporate culture of this company. Lewis, the author of this book, felt this intense corporate culture as soon as he entered Solomon Brothers. He explains that in Solomon Brothers, as well as in most of Wall Street, 3 factors determine whether you can stand invincible. What are these 3 factors? Luck, appearance, and brown-nosing. Lewis, just a rookie intern at Solomon Brothers, underwent various forms of training. He points out that brainwashing might not be an accurate term, as brainwashing usually involves leaders instilling a grand dream in you, like changing the world. However, at Solomon Brothers, the brainwashing is very straightforward, it's about making money. On the first day of Lewis's training, the instructor made it clear that about half of the interns would leave the company within a year. In fact, Lewis assesses that in this company, there are only 2 outcomes, success or failure, with no room for anything in between. To escape the intern status and become an official employee of the company, every intern must find a way to stay. This is where they first experience Solomon Brothers' ruthless corporate culture. To achieve this goal, many interns must learn one thing, lying. In a way, this is their first trial in their financial careers. So, how can an intern stay on? There's only one way, and that's to earn the favor of a department manager. At Solomon Brothers, interns are like commodities in the market. Department managers provide training while evaluating their performance. Those deemed valuable stay, while others are shown the door. When Lewis joined the company, there were 112 managing directors, each holding the power within their respective domains. To secure your place, you must get in good with one of them. It's even better if the manager who takes a liking to you has influence and authority, otherwise, you might face challenges even after entering the company. So, how can you earn the manager's favor? Brown-nosing is indeed important, but it's not the most effective method. Lewis goes on to say that you must learn the art of the Ponzi scheme. What is a Ponzi scheme? This scheme involves creating a certain illusion in the market, making most people believe that what you're selling is valuable or that your financial product offers extraordinary returns. In the realm of interpersonal relationships, there's a Ponzi scheme as well, where you shape yourself into someone everyone desires, a piece of fat meat that most department managers want to grab. Your perceived value multiplies, and Lewis was well versed in this technique. He started ingratiating himself with one department manager, even though he had no intention of joining that department. However, the manager took a liking to him and extended an invitation. Lewis then spread the rumor that he was in high demand, and the manager who had initially caught his interest couldn't sit still. He eventually approached Lewis, offering him a place in his department, making Lewis an official employee of Solomon Brothers. Lewis acknowledges that this approach might seem somewhat reckless, but not doing so would have been even worse. He points out that many interns, in their desperation to stay, would kneel at a department manager's feet, begging to be retained, essentially saying, "I'm yours in life and death. I'll do anything for you. I'll risk my life for you." Some lenient managers would keep such individuals, but most department managers were ruthless. They believed that those who knelt and begged couldn't survive in the harsh competitive market. Compared to the weak and helpless, people with strong spirits might be better suited for playing financial products. However, Salomon Brothers corporate culture is not just about flattery and deception, that's just the entry level. Lewis believes that the most remarkable part of Salomon Brothers corporate culture is the stories that training instructors share, stories that connect like pearls on a string. These stories all convey a common message: money is fluid. It flows around the world, and traders, salespeople, and financiers must learn to predict the trends of this monetary flow and act at the most opportune moments to reap enormous profits. As one department manager at Salomon Brothers put it, "Why do we pay you high salaries? Because once we give you a phone, you must learn to make money." So, this covers the first key point. Through the experiences of Salomon Brothers interns, we can gain a rough understanding of the company's corporate culture, which is straightforward, direct, and unapologetically brutal. You must make money for the company, and there's no other condition for your survival. Let's now delve into the second key point. Why do traders aim to make all the money in the market? How should we interpret this? It might seem like having an insatiable appetite. After all, isn't making some money enough? Why strive to make all the money in the market? In reality, what this means is that you must conquer both buyers and sellers in the market to maximize your own profits. Let's break it down. On the surface, Salomon Brothers' internal divisions appear as follows: traders are responsible for making bets, which means finding reliable bonds. On the other hand, salespeople are responsible for communicating with major institutions like pension funds and insurance companies to promote these bonds. At first glance, it seems that these two roles require different skill sets, right? Traders need to understand the financial products, while salespeople need to be effective communicators, as they have to sell something. However, in practice, their capabilities overlap. Think about it. Traders need to persuade salespeople to market their products, and salespeople need to understand the value of the products to convince buyers. So, despite their differences on the surface, both roles require the same underlying skill, the ability to persuade and influence. Now, let's take a look at how Salomon Brothers managed to make all the money in the market through the history of one of its departments, the mortgage trading department. Before 1981, this department was marginal and wasn't making significant profits. But in 1981, a bright ray of sunshine shone on the mortgage trading department. The catalyst for this change occurred in 1979 when the Federal Reserve raised interest rates, resulting in many people being unable to afford their mortgage payments. At the time, the institutions responsible for home loans in the United States were known as thrifts. Due to the inability of many individuals to pay their mortgages, thrifts faced substantial losses. In 1981, the U.S. Congress prepared to bail out thrifts with a significant amount of financial assistance, but with one condition: the mortgages held by thrifts had to be sold. How were these mortgages to be sold? For example, if an individual borrowed $100,000 from a thrift to purchase a home but couldn't repay it, the thrift would then sell this $100,000 loan for $80,000 to Salomon Brothers. If Salomon Brothers managed to find a way to recoup the entire $100,000 loan from the borrower, they would earn $20,000, right? However, Salomon Brothers was not a loan shark. They wouldn't go knocking on the borrower's door for repayment. So, how did they make money? By continuously selling mortgage bonds from thrifts, just as we discussed earlier. They would market these loans to various clients and institutions, portraying them as high-quality assets with a particular value, and for every sale, they earned a commission. By repeating this process, they could continually generate income. This game is all about that. Lewis pointed out that in their desperation to secure government assistance, thrifts ignored their own interests. They were unfamiliar with the rules of this game. To quickly sell off these loans, they were like lambs ready for slaughter. In contrast, Salomon Brothers acted as ruthless butchers. One of the traders at Salomon Brothers recalled how the company descended upon thrifts like bloodthirsty mosquitoes. The president of a thrift found this trader and told him that he wanted to sell $100 million worth of 30-year loans and then use the proceeds to buy someone else's loans worth $100 million. At first glance, this appeared to be a break-even deal, right? To secure government assistance, the thrifts were willing to accept this. But this trader pointed out that to complete this transaction, the thrifts had to pay Solomon Brothers a commission of at least $10 million. The president of the thrift was in a difficult spot, but he had no other options. If he didn't pay this $10 million, he might lose his job. Some people might wonder why he didn't go to another company that would charge a lower commission. Well, at the time, Solomon Brothers was the only Wall Street firm engaged in mortgage bond business. They might have had foresight. This question doesn't have a clear answer. While other Wall Street firms were still playing with junk bonds, Solomon Brothers entered the world of mortgage bonds, enduring years of hopelessness and uncertainty. Eventually, they experienced the heyday of the U.S. real estate market and the era of enormous profits from mortgage loans. Financial trading might seem complex, but its basic principle is quite simple. In the thrift transaction, Solomon Brothers' most successful trader earned a commission of $2.1 million. How did he manage to do that? The Thrift Association wanted to sell bonds with a face value of $70 million, but this trader believed that these bonds were unreliable and might not be fully repaid. So, he offered to buy them at 80% of their face value. In other words, he offered $56 million for the $70 million face value of the bonds. The Thrift Association agreed because its leadership was worried about job security. Later, as we discussed previously, the president of the thrifts wanted to sell the bonds and then use the cash to buy other loans, hoping to profit from the transaction. The trader decided to sell the bonds for $58.1 million to another thrift association. Calculate the profit, it's $2.1 million, right? For a trader, earning $2.1 million is a remarkable achievement. Moreover, this transaction was completed within a single day. Do you see what they did? This is the essence of making all the money in the market. The market consists of two sides, buyers and sellers. Solomon Brothers, in the field of mortgage bonds, managed to profit from both the buyers and the sellers, which is quite remarkable. But this isn't even the most impressive part. After realizing the profitability of mortgage bonds, Solomon Brothers began aggressively purchasing mortgage bonds in the market. As the head of the mortgage department put it, buy first and figure out how to sell later. The end result? In 1982, the mortgage department at Solomon Brothers earned $150 million. In 1984, this number increased to $175 million, and a year later, the department made $275 million. So, this concludes the second key point, why traders aim to make all the money in the market. It's entirely possible. They exploited the market's information asymmetry, buying bonds at a lower price and selling them at a higher price to make a profit. The game is both simple and complex. Let's move on to the third key point. During the era when mortgage bonds were making Solomon Brothers incredibly profitable, what kind of individuals could become reliable and money-making traders? If these traders were living today, could they still be successful? To address this question, let's explore how the author of this book, Michael Lewis, evolved from an obscure intern into a star trader at Solomon Brothers. After reading his story, you might find your own answers to the questions posed. To make it easier to understand, I'll summarize. If you want to be a competent and successful trader at Solomon Brothers, you need two essential capabilities. First, you need to understand human nature and use people's weaknesses to create financial products. Second, you must learn to deal reasonably with colleagues who might steal your achievements in the company. Let's start by explaining the first capability, how to leverage people's weaknesses to build financial products. Michael Lewis went through the brutal phase of being an intern and later became a full-time employee at the company. However, this position was far from glamorous. He had to start as a trader's assistant, which involved buying lunch and pouring coffee for traders, sometimes even enduring physical mistreatment when traders were unhappy. But Lewis believed that this environment was not suitable for him. Weighing the pros and cons, Lewis headed to Solomon Brothers' London office, thinking that he might have more room to showcase his talents in Europe. At the same time, he realized a critical quality that traders needed: there's often no particular reason behind market fluctuations, so you must learn to craft narratives. By observing the behavior of most clients of traders, Lewis concluded that in the bond market, the only thing that truly exists is deception. You don't need rational analysis. Instead, you need to manipulate emotions to make clients believe that trading through you is a surefire way to make money. We typically assume that people are risk-averse. However, in the bond market, risk itself is also a commodity. Many believe that you can only make significant money if there's risk involved. As a trader, you buy risk at a low price and sell it at a higher price. This genetic trait is essential for being a successful trader. Let's illustrate this with an example. Lewis had a client who firmly believed that German bonds were destined to soar. When asked why, the client simply replied, "I just have a feeling." As such, this client purchased a large number of German government bonds from Lewis. He was a risk buyer. For a competent trader like Lewis, the job was to find new clients willing to take on even more risk by taking over the bonds from this initial client. Many people are hesitant to embrace risk, so what did Lewis do? Lewis was a genius. He urged the London office to issue a particular type of guarantee, essentially a call option. If you believed that German bonds would soar, you could place your bet, though the outcome was uncertain. As for Salomon Brothers, it didn't matter much, because they had already sold the bonds. The first client, trusting in the bond's future rise, could choose not to make a substantial profit. In this scenario, the call option served as an exit strategy. In essence, Lewis found a way to connect risk-takers and conservative investors. In other words, this established a channel to connect those who were risk-averse and those who were willing to take chances. The risk-averse could earn modest profits while the risk-takers either reaped huge profits or faced significant losses. For Lewis and Salomon Brothers, it was a win-win situation. Indeed, thanks to this deal and the unique risk management model, Lewis gained recognition from the company's leadership and received substantial bonuses. He even became the highest-earning trader in the London office. This represents the first capability, using people's weaknesses to create financial products skillfully. Whether it's conservative investment or bold speculation, both stem from human nature's flaws, greed and speculation. While there's nothing inherently wrong with these tendencies, they are indeed worth exploiting. By shrewdly leveraging these human weaknesses, traders can earn substantial profits. Now, on to the second capability, how to handle colleagues in a company who may steal your accomplishments, potentially even your superiors. Even in a securities company, performance isn't always entirely transparent. Your immediate superior might use their authority to take credit for your innovative products. What can you do? Lewis's product, the German bond call option, was quickly claimed by his superior as his own and widely promoted, turning the superior into a hero within Salomon Brothers. Lewis was furious. He identified a theory about this superior, who was known as an opportunist. This individual frequently engaged in unearned gain. Lewis accused the opportunist of hypocrisy and claimed he was being deceitful. But the opportunist calmly warned Lewis that he had the power to have him fired and advised Lewis to think twice. In reality, Lewis had influential connections. One key figure was a manager named Nuttigate, who played a crucial role in managing relationships between all the traders and leaders within the company. These individuals were exceptionally savvy and had earned the trust of the company's headquarters. After examining all the details, Nuttigate suggested that the opportunist was unreliable and not worth trusting. 6 months later, the opportunist resigned, taking his bonuses with him, and Lewis emerged victorious. That's the second capability, not yielding. In firms like Salomon Brothers, where self-interest reigns, there's no harm in standing up for yourself. Indeed, it's a trait that's sure to serve you well. So, that concludes the third key point. To become a competent and outstanding trader, you need to understand people's weaknesses and be adept at profiting from those weaknesses. You must also learn how to deal with colleagues who aim to steal your achievements, which sometimes even includes your superiors. Let's review the key points of The Liar's Poker one more time. This book covers 3 main points. The first point, how did the traders on Wall Street create a cutthroat corporate culture? Most financial companies on Wall Street are characterized by a cutthroat nature, where the only outcomes are making money or losing it. There is a winner-takes-all mentality, with no grand ideals of contributing to humanity. The second point, the mission of a trader is to make all the money available in the market flow. In this process, every step is profitable. An example given is the case of mortgage-backed securities, where Salomon Brothers continually flipped them and became a money-making machine in the 1980s. The third point, a great trader needs to understand human weaknesses. Whether dealing with conservative investors or reckless gamblers, speculation is a human weakness. You must learn to profit from these weaknesses. Is this still relevant today? Yes, because human weaknesses have remained unchanged. As for what happened to Lewis afterward, in the spring of 1988, he left Salomon Brothers. By that time, his income had become substantial, and he was on the path to becoming a millionaire. However, he chose to leave because he couldn't find happiness in this cutthroat organization. He had received an education that emphasized that making money should improve human well-being, which he believed was the purpose of making money. Those on Wall Street who could manipulate billions in securities transactions made Lewis feel like he didn't belong to their world. So, he left Salomon Brothers, stating his belief that Wall Street would never remain silent because human greed for money would never be silenced. Congratulations on completing another book, and thank you for your support and attention. Please subscribe to the Tim Booker channel, like, and share this valuable knowledge with your friends. Let's combine wisdom and practicality to achieve our financial goals and create a better future. Thank you, and goodbye.